Why do locals in so many tourist locations hate vacationers? It's a sad truth in a lot of places. You can't wait to go on vacation, but the city that you're going to, the locals don't want you there. How do I know? Because I used to live in Lake Tahoe, where people would flock in droves in the summertime to escape the heat and enjoy the lake. And in the wintertime, they'd head there to hit the slopes. The problem is called over-tourism, and it understandably creates a lot of resentment among locals. There are times of the year when almost 3/4 of the people in Tahoe are travelers. They seriously outnumber the people who live and work there. While the locals are going to work at restaurants or ski resorts, a lot of the tourists want to be catered to. It's their vacation after all. And Tahoe's a great and beautiful place. That's why so many people want to go there and so many people live there. But those same vacationers, they'd often leave their trash on the beach or on the trails. They'd clog up the highway, making traffic horrible for everyone. And worst of all, they'd be super impatient at restaurants where the staff were overwhelmed and the wait times were long. No one likes those people. Vacationers became hated by many people who live not only in Tahoe, but in other places where people love to visit. And no one wants to go somewhere to relax and have fun, only to feel the animosity of those who live there. So in this video, I'll break it down, how you can travel to a new place, enjoy the best that it has to offer, and not be one of those people who stand out as entitled vacationers wanting everyone else to wait on them. So just to be clear, I'm an addicted traveler, and I'm guessing if you're watching my YouTube videos, it's because you at least have an interest in traveling too. And while I totally support exploring new places and seeing the world, I think it all comes down to how you're seeing it. Instead of going somewhere with the goal of having everything come to you because, well, you're on vacation, try having the goal of exploring a city like you live there. Living like a local, we've heard that term before. You're still a guest, but when you're on a trip, trying to live like a local is a much better way of getting to know a city than booking a hotel room in the tourist district and eating at the overpriced themed restaurants. You can get a much more authentic experience in a new place while still relaxing if that's what you want to do, by setting out with the goal of living like a local and being respectful of locals. Here's how you do it. First is lodging. Yeah, I already mentioned hotel rooms. A hotel is nice, but if you rent a home, or my favorite, if you plan a home swap, like this place that we're staying at right now, it's a home exchange in Sonoma wine country. You'll be in a neighborhood where you can get a feel for what it's like to actually live there. This can be such a different experience than being in a hotel in an area that caters to people who are only in town for a short period of time. They're usually tourists or business travelers who end up paying higher prices and getting a completely different kind of experience. A note on vacation rentals, make sure you go through a short-term rental agency and don't use an unlicensed home. One problem with rentals is they take homes off the market for people who live there year-round, making rent for locals a lot more expensive. So there can be some angst when it comes to rentals in a neighborhood. In fact, a lot of vacation destinations are starting to monitor or limit the number of rentals allowed in a neighborhood. Also, if you're renting a home, make sure you're being respectful of the neighbors. We had a short-term rental that backed up to our property in Tahoe, and we could count on a loud party every weekend when tourists were in town. Meanwhile, we often had to work early the next morning, and we just wanted to barbecue in peace in our own backyard. It's hard to do when you have partiers every weekend right next door. A home exchange is a great way to do it because you're not renting. You're kind of more like a guest or a friend of the homeowners. My second suggestion, do some research ahead of time. Go on Facebook groups and ask around about great neighborhoods or restaurants that aren't really touristy. If you rent a home, the homeowners are usually a wealth of knowledge. You may want to let them know that you're looking for an experience that's more authentic and ask them ahead of time where some great gems are or some of their favorite restaurants in the neighborhood. Third, try to travel off-season. If you're vacationing during the peak travel times, not only are you going to have to deal with more crowds and higher prices and more traffic, but you're also going to be a part of the crowds and the traffic. If you can go during the off-season or the shoulder season, you're likely to have a completely different experience that's more peaceful and less crowded. My fourth tip goes without saying, but do your best to be respectful of wherever it is that you're going. In Tahoe, there were beach cleanups after the holidays. In the winter, broken plastic sleds that people just left behind would litter the hills along the road. It's a sure and quick way to make the locals hate the tourists when the tourists trash their town. Also, usually those places that people love to visit, they're beautiful. The more trash they get, the less desirable and beautiful they're going to be. So go one step further and be a part of the solution when you see problems like this. If somebody leaves a broken sled behind, you can probably still use it. Play with it. It's like recycling. Go sledding. And then when you leave, take it with you and find a recycling or a garbage can, or if it's in good condition, give it to somebody who's just showing up so they can play with it. Lastly, treat the locals with respect and with patience. After the pandemic, a lot of places where people would go to be outdoors were just overwhelmed with tourists. But a lot of the businesses weren't open to full capacity and didn't have full staffing. Restaurants had really long wait times. Sometimes employees would call in sick or just not show up to work because they didn't want to have to deal with the impatient, hangry tourists. I get it. The last thing you want to do when you're on vacation is wait in line or wait for food. One great solution for this, if you stay in a home like this rather than a hotel, is to go to the grocery store, buy your own food, and cook some of your own meals. I actually think it's really fun to shop in a grocery store in another city because you have access to different produce and fish and fresh foods. And if you're at a home with a great barbecue, it's fun to enjoy the place that you're staying and steer clear of the crowds. You can always do this for some of your meals and snacks if you're spending the day out and about, and then make reservations for those special dinners out to give you a little more certainty that you'll be able to find food without a really long wait. Okay, I just want to show you, this is our home exchange in Sonoma, and it has a beautiful kitchen. It's actually kind of fun to do your own cooking when you're in a place like this. And just remember that even if you're living like a local in a neighborhood, eating at the house, visiting it off season, you're still a guest. So enjoy all the reasons why people love to visit that place and do your best to leave it in the same shape or even better than you found it. And with that, I am going to go enjoy this beautiful home and check out Sonoma Wine Country. I'll sign off here, but please hit subscribe and see more of my videos, and I will see you next time. Ciao, friends.